Hey everybody, my name is Melisha McGregor and we're back with another DevOps Fundamentals. So today we'll talk about what infrastructure as code is, because this is one of the underlying principles in DevOps that lets us automate a lot of things. So to just jump right in, infrastructure as code is the code that makes up everything your application code runs on. So when you think about infrastructure code, this is the stuff that helps provision your servers and get all of your application code out to production. And you might be wondering, okay, well, where does this fit in? So you have your developers that they're doing their code stuff, implementing new features, fixing bugs for users, and then those changes need to get to your customers in production so that they have a better overall experience and you can deliver the things you've promised. So infrastructure as code is that bridge between your developers and your customers. This is how you can automate a lot of things that just need to happen in the background, which is why we're about to talk about automating your infrastructure. So with an infrastructure, you still have an artifact. It's just this artifact will be something like a DEB package or something like an operating system. This is where you get all of those kinds of dependencies sorted out so that when it's time to set up your server and get your code out, you already know that your back end servers and resources are ready for you. And of course, like with any other code, you still need to run tests. And these tests will be for things like making sure that your servers have been provisioned with enough resources, or that all of your configurations are in sync with which environment you're deploying to, and make sure that your pipeline is actually going to deploy your code to production correctly. There are a number of tools to do this with, and this is a very, very short list of them. So the top two, Chef and Ansible, those are more of the heavy hitting infrastructure as code tools. These are the tools that you'll use to actually provision servers and to check on configurations and to make sure that all of your resources are automatically allocated correctly. Then you come down the list to things like Conducto and Docker and Terraform, which have more to do with your application code getting to production on those servers you've just provisioned and spun up in maybe AWS or Azure, Heroku, Google Cloud, whichever cloud provider you use. This is the start of how you automate updating those servers. And so, as you can guess, just like with deploying applications to production, you have to deploy your infrastructure to production as well, or else your application code won't have anything to run on. The first thing you'll do is go ahead and provision those servers. All that means is that you're getting your servers ready to run whatever application code you're going to deploy to it. That could mean installing different dependencies, making sure that you're using the right operating system, and also making sure that you have enough CPU, all of those other kinds of back-end server resources. Once you know that your server's been provisioned correctly, then you can get to the point where you're deploying apps to the server and doing updates to those apps. This is where CI/CD fits into infrastructure as code. This is that automated process that should get rid of a lot of those regressions and bugs that come from manual deploys. And then when you're working with a lot of different servers on your system, you need to be able to control those. And that means orchestration. So you will have the ability to upgrade your servers and other systems. You can change your resource allocation, and you generally just have fine-tuned control over everything that happens with your infrastructure. Then there's the configuration management. You need to make sure that your applications and any packages you use are updated and maintained as they need to be. So there will be times where you have security patches, or maybe a package that you're using is no longer supported. This is where that configuration management comes in so that you are able to go in and make changes as needed. And now that you have a really high level overview of infrastructure as code, some other things you want to consider are when to use certain tools. So like I mentioned earlier, Chef, Ansible, those two are great for all of that underlying infrastructure, like getting your servers spun up. Then you have tools like Docker and Kubernetes if you're working with microservices, because each of those microservices needs to live somewhere. You're going to deploy that code to something, and that is where this orchestration comes in. And another thing, if you have any application code that you're deploying to a server, you might consider a tool like Conducto or Circle CI to build out the pipeline that will install those individual application dependencies, run all of those unit tests, and just generally make sure you have everything you need before you go to production. So that is all for infrastructure as code today, and I hope to see you next time.